We're now joined by our great friend from Infinity Sports Radio, Zach Gelb, with us on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for jumping on with us, and appreciate your time. What were your takeaways from the latest college football standings that were released last night?
Yeah, I thought they got the 12 teams right, if I'm going to be honest. I'm not really obsessed about the order of the teams right now. I just want them to get the right 12 teams in. I thought the biggest takeaway was, even though the AP poll reflected it, I didn't know if the committee would actually put Boise State in front of BYU, but they did that. So it's a cool story there with Boise State. So I liked what the committee ended up doing last night.
What do you think is the difference between SMU and Miami? SMU's only losses to BYU, who's obviously the 12th team. Miami's losses to Georgia Tech. Is it just the Cam Ward factor that keeps them? Because Miami doesn't have, SMU has some better wins than Miami does, is my point.
Yeah, and you could also argue a better loss, too.
Yeah.
Because SMU lost to BYU by, 3? And Miami lost to a Georgia Tech team. And let's be real, Miami probably should have lost to Cal, and they should have lost to Virginia Tech. I think it's just, even though Miami in football has not been the Miami that we knew they were all those years ago, now 2 decades ago. But I think it's the brand recognition. And then also, I would say that it's the Cam Ward factor. Personally, I was talking about this today with Kevin Carter, who was in studio with us, the former Gator, and does a great job for CBS. And we both agreed that when SMU's in the ACC championship game, assuming they're playing Miami, they're going to beat Miami.
Zach, are you a best team, eye test, or best resume type of guy?
I think I'm a mixture of both. Let's just be real. A few weeks ago, I put in all my rankings when I do a Take 5 Wednesday, which is the top 5 teams in the NFL and college football. I was going more true to the records. But the SEC is better than the Big Ten this year. Oregon and Ohio State are the only 2 teams in the Big Ten that could win a national championship. No disrespect to Indiana, no disrespect to Penn State. I just don't think they could win a national championship this year. And you look at it, we're only talking about 4 teams out of the Big Ten that are can make the playoff. You're looking at 6 teams in the SEC that still have a case to make the playoff. I think we'll get 4 and 4 in because Notre Dame's going to get a spot, and then all the other conference champions and the way that plays on out. But earlier in the season, I'm more of what the record says you are. You got to prove yourself. But then a team like Georgia, who we were out on, and then Georgia got a big victory the other weekend ago, you kind of suck you back into thinking, okay, Carson Beck plays that way, then Georgia could be the Georgia that we thought they could be.
Would you not love to see, if in fact it may not happen, not expected to happen, to see if Indiana beat Ohio State and Army beat Notre Dame?
I don't think Army could do it. And I love their quarterback, Bryson Daly. I got a chance to talk to him. I'm going to say that Notre Dame wins that game. I believe Ohio State's going to win, but I told you I had Kevin Carter on today. He was adamant that Indiana was the better team, like Cignetti over Ryan Day, which I think that part could be a fair take. And I could believe more in Cignetti than Ryan Day. And then he talked about Will Howard being the weak link for Ohio State and talked about how he's no longer the starter at Kansas State because Avery Johnson was just better. So it's bizarre because I think most people, they go into this game and they say there's more on the line for Indiana. Indiana has more to prove. And I get it because they could miss the college football playoff if they lose this game. I think how they lose could, be beneficial in terms of if they make the college football playoff or not. If they got blown out by 3-4 touchdowns, maybe they are kept out. I still think they deserve a spot. But I look at Ohio State, man, that Oregon game still stands out to me with at the end. And I know they only lost by 1 point, and Oregon hasn't lost a game this year. But how Ryan Day and Howard crumbled in that big moment was concerning. I know they bounced back and they had a tough victory and they displayed toughness, and it was a good defensive performance up against Penn State. They lost their offensive lineman today for the season, the transfer from Alabama. But I think there's still a lot on the line here for Ohio State to prove that if they are different, then they don't make this a close game up against Indiana.
Yeah, we had Bryson Daly on the show too, Zach. He's from Abernathy, Texas, and he's the biggest news out of Abernathy since they got that second stoplight. So, but
it's a low bar.
It is. Do you think should Colorado win the Big 12? How much is that better than maybe BYU winning the Big 12 for the attention on the league because of Travis Hunter and Shadur and Dion and all the others?
Yeah, like I love the BYU story. I'm a huge fan of Kalani Sitake. I love Jake Retzloff, but they win and they're not as exciting as Colorado. And I think the part here about Colorado is we looked at that team, especially early on this season. They were a team of individuals. Now they're returning kicks. Now this kid Amari McNeil makes a big play each and every week on the defensive side of the ball. And Travis Hunter, you could make the case as the best player in college football. It's either him or Ashton Genty for the Heisman. But the most valuable player in Colorado is the quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. He'll be the first quarterback taken in the draft. He should be. And then I would say it's Cam Ward too. So I do think Colorado, they are the better team, and they also bring better exposure for the league. And if the Big 12 kind of want to make that claim that, we're more important than the ACC because that's the battle they're fighting with, I think it's better if they have Colorado represent them in the college football playoff.
Zach, I know I asked you previously of just your thoughts and as a fan, what you thought about the expanded playoff, but now we're getting into this part of the year where there's all the arguments happening, there's all the mudslinging and the resume comparisons, and my loss doesn't count the same as your loss. Do you still like the 12 team? Do we need 16? Or would you like to go like, this sucks, we need to go back to 4 or the BCS or something?
So I was adamant, keep it at 4. And then I said, okay, if we have to expand, go to 6 or 8. I look at the bracket, and I'll admit it. I love the bracket. I love a 12-team bracket. All those games, maybe BYU, Ohio State's not that exciting, but you have at least 3 games where you could make a case the lower-seeded team is going to beat the higher-seeded team. I saw the spreads, and the teams that had the worst seed were all favorites, and I would lay the points with all those teams. So it's going to work. It's going to be fun. It's going to eventually go up. I hope it does not. But I understand you follow the cash and they're going to just keep on adding more teams and more teams. But I'm fine now with this 12-team format.
I know we love to have you on for college, and we'll bounce back and forth between that, but also with the NFL. The Jets are cleaning house. Is that correct?
They're a disaster. Joe Douglas gone. He was basically stripped of all power anyway because Woody Johnson, he is running the show as the owner. They fired Robert Saleh, obviously, earlier in the season, and this report comes out from Zach Rosenblatt and Diana Rossini, which is basically Joe Douglas getting fired and then talking to them. If we're going to be honest, that's less than 24 hours. They have this big article out there, is that after the Week 4 loss, I believe it was Week 4 to Denver, because they were 2-2, Woody Johnson was trying to get Aaron Rodgers' bench for Tyrod Taylor. So he's going to join the Trump administration. He was the ambassador to the UK the last time, so I would think that's on the table for him again. He will hire a new coach, a new GM, probably draft a quarterback in the draft. Yesterday, I would have said Rodgers be on the team. Now, after this report, I would say Rodgers not on the team next year. And then in all likelihood, he'll hand the organization back over to his brother Christopher, and he'll be a part of the Trump administration. But I'll say this. I don't think this will happen, but I would like to see it happen, and it would be a disaster. Woody Johnson thinks he's a football guy. How Jerry Jones runs the Cowboys is now how Woody Johnson has been running the Jets. So I would kind of just like to see him say, okay, I'll put my name on it. At least Jerry owns it. And just be the general manager and bypass the Trump administration, say thanks, but no thanks. And just, if you think you have all the answers, let's see what you could do from a record standpoint, knowing you're the guy calling the shots as the GM. But I don't expect that to happen.
What, from the rest of the NFC East as they look down upon the Cowboys right now. I mean, the Giants are no great shakes. I mean, but to watch, look, Jerry Jones has always been kind of with it. Now I think he's starting to lose it. That's something that kind of throws a wrinkle in what the future of the Cowboys is, at least immediately, because it doesn't seem like he is completely as cool, calm, and collected as he used to be.
Yeah, I don't like to throw this out there, but I heard Stephen A. Smith say it, and I thought it as well. Like, when you watch the first presidential debate with Biden up against Trump, it's like you knew the guy just wasn't fit to be the president anymore. Mm-hmm. And when you hear Jerry Jones speak, not to get all political, he just seems like something is off, and he's not fit to be the point person of the Dallas Cowboys. I know you got Steven there. I know you got Will McClay there as well. But this kind of started 4 years ago, and we were laughing at it when he was talking about getting the Dak Prescott deal done. And he was like, if you're in the forest and you cut your hand, he's talking about a liberal arts degree and a bachelor's degree and how it's going to get it to sew it back together and how that relates to the Dak Prescott conversation. That's when I was like, what the heck is this guy talking about? But the other day, like, I wasn't laughing at it. It's kind of sad now when he's talking to the media and he's just not making any sense. So the Cowboys are an absolute mess. And then you got Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs popping off on the podcast saying that this is a great team. You guys have been terrible in the last 6 games at home. Like, the discrepancy of points at halftime and at the end of the game, you're not even competitive. So stop saying that you're a great team. You guys suck right now.
All right. You and I have become college football text, like we're really close with this.
Yeah.
Watching our buddy, Matt Rule, and yet it cannot get worse for what Nebraska's going through with Wisconsin, quarterback there or not. And then Iowa, they're going to damn sure slide off the map again, Zach. I just don't get it.
I actually feel bad that I text you now during these games, if I'm being honest. Because I'll just send an innocuous text, or you'll text me first, vice versa, and then I'll respond.
Yep.
And then I just get, throughout my college football Saturday, ding, 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 ding from Smokey. And I feel as if, because usually I have people calling you and sounding off, I feel like I'm the role of the host just letting you sound off. And I feel really bad for you because this team has totally rattled your life.
Yeah. No.
They gave him hope. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
They did.
I mean,
like, I didn't know Smokey had that in him. Obviously, passionate, great, well-researched person. But Nebraska football has put him in a blender. And it's not pretty.
It is not, and I expect the absolute worst. I now feel like Kansas State for so many years, or Northwestern, or Baylor. You know, when they've had their dark years, oh my God!
So they beat Wisconsin last year, if memory serves me right.
I don't remember. I can't. I'm toast.
Yeah, can they beat Wisconsin, Smokey? Can they do it?
Well, they can beat UCLA, but they didn't. They can beat last week. You know, I mean, and then they had the Ohio State game that you said, but I haven't seen. I don't know. Is this team any better than they were when they hammered Colorado? I don't see it.
Yeah, and I think I got that wrong. I think they lost to Wisconsin last year and they beat Iowa. That's what I think it was.
They lost to Iowa.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they lost to Iowa, yeah.
It doesn't matter. They lose 7 games a year. That's who they are, and sometimes worse than that. But it really is amazing, the couple of those deflected passes. Like, wait for something bad. And here's the thing. They're going to have to get somebody who's just good enough to go grab it by the balls and go do something with a big play in a big moment. They don't have that player, it looks like to me.
Oh, yeah. That's how bad it was, because they lost to Wisconsin in overtime last year and they lost to Iowa by 3. Both those games they probably should have won. That's why I probably remembered them as victories, and then they lost, but they all gelled together with how many just close losses they are.
Oh,
if they don't win, if they don't get a 6th win this year, it's with being 5-1 up against Rutgers and this offense just totally crapping the bed. Man, that's rough. It's really rough. I wish I had something. You know what? Here's the positive part, Smokey. We don't think it's going to happen. So we're setting the bar really low. Maybe they finally surprise you.
Yeah. They lost their last 4 last year and didn't make the bowl game. And they're going to lose their last, 5 or 6 this year and not make the bowl game unless something. And, it would be nice if just somebody who played them had their worst game. They're not good enough to go win it themselves. Have somebody else throw up on themselves. But oh well.
Yeah, do you think Raiola's staying though? You don't buy into Raiola leaving, right? I think Raiola's definitely staying.
No, I think he's going to stay. Yeah, I think the Holgorsen hire, which he said he was bored, he wanted to coach again. I think the Holgorsen hire might be a part of that, trying to make sure he's okay with what they're going to run next year. And hopefully for them, at least not just 2 games, but 3 games left this year.
Yeah, I hope they get to a bowl game, because I know the bowl games kind of feel irrelevant now in the landscape of college football. But for a program like that hasn't been to one since 2016, and their fans are as passionate as they come, I really hope that they're able to get one of these 2. But it's kind of tough to see it.
All right, man. Thank you very much, Zach. Appreciate it.
You got it, guys. Be well.
Zach Gelb with the Infinity Sports Network.